This is Praveen from TV5 and MANATV. I have here our guest, Mr. Rohit Malhotra, who is running for City Council of Atlanta for the first time in the history of Indo-Americans here. Hey Rohit, how are you?
I'm doing so great. Thank you for having me. Thank you. You're at my childhood home, so it's very exciting for me. Yep.
Rohit, first of all, congratulations for making yourself a firm that to run for this city council.
Oh,
right?
Thank you. Yeah.
So, tell us more about your roots. Where are your father and mother from, and then where did you live most of your life in Georgia?
Yeah.
And what do you do for a living?
Yeah. So again, you are at my childhood home right now. This is where I grew up in Gwinnett County. I went to high school here, went to middle school here. This is a very special place for me. My parents are immigrants from India. My dad is from Punjab. My mom is a city girl. She's from Delhi, and they immigrated here in the late 70s, early 80s, and they settled in Chicago, Illinois, which is where I was born. But at a very young age, we came to Atlanta, and this is where I grew up. I have always had, my career has always been in public service. The entirety of my career has always been from day one in public service. Most recently, I was running the Center for Civic Innovation in Atlanta, and I decided to run for city council president about 45 days ago. So I'm very excited.
Thank you so much. I think that gives the background of why you are here.
Yes.
And I'm sure that being in public service, right?
Yes.
So what are the pressing needs you have seen, and what made you to, there should be some striking point where you think that, I can make a difference.
Yeah.
So what is that which made a difference in your life to start competing for a city council?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people my age, we have watched institutions fail our families. We didn't want that to happen. That's not what you want to see happen. But institutions, especially when I graduated when I graduated college, 2008, you saw an economic collapse, and the impact that had on families, particularly families of small businesses and people who are working class people, they're still recovering from that. And I think that people my age understand that that poverty is not it's not an act of God. It's a failure of man. That the way to fix that is through public policy. That public policy is a love language in a lot of ways, but it's also it is an understanding of how the rules are written, and you have an understanding of how those rules are written so you can rewrite them better for the people that we love and care about. But my roots, why I do public service, why I care about this, comes from how I was raised and comes from my family. Always. That will always be at the core of who I am.
Excellent, Rohit. Coming to the point now from the City Council of Atlanta,
Yeah.
I see that most of our community is definitely not in the area of City of Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
So, why do you think City of Atlanta should vote you for the City Council?
Yeah, I have an expertise in this. I have a life of public service. I didn't just start doing this so I could run for office. I'm running for office because I believe we need public servants inside of politics, not because I want to be a politician. For me, a lot of what I am focused on is, especially in a place like Atlanta, is that Atlanta's economy is booming. Historically, it is booming, but not for everybody. The city of Atlanta's economy still has, people are stuck. It has the highest income inequality gap in the United States. Upward mobility is only 4%. So people are watching the economy do so well, and then they open up their bank accounts, and they see very limited opportunity for growth for their families inside of that bank account. That should not happen. That is a policy failure. And I think that people are craving more honest, more direct, more courageous leadership in cities. I think that there is an opportunity for a new generation of leadership, of people who are going to address the challenges that are going to affect my generation more than anybody else. We are in a crisis moment of leadership in this country. And who we elect at this point is not just a political decision, it's a moral one. And I think I'm right for this moment. And I think people are going to see that.
Absolutely, Rohit. I think you brought up good points like economy and booming economy and the city which is growing.
Yeah.
I could see that it is now top 5 or 6 cities, Atlanta,
Yeah.
and leaders like you should be there in the legislation.
Thank you.
And I see that there is a gap in the Indo-American community not being in the legislation, especially in Georgia.
Totally.
You agree with me, right? So
Yeah, 100%. I think that, yes, you need representation, but you also need the right representation. I think sometimes when we talk about representation, it's just about how many numbers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many people? I don't just want the Indo-American community in politics. I want the right Indo-American community in politics. Same way with if you want to see Indo-American leaders in business. You want them to be really good at business, right? Absolutely. You want them to be really good at finance, right? You expect that a Indian American leader, before we talk about them being Indian American, we want them to be good at the job. I think we should expect the same in our politics and our leadership. That we should expect, yes, we want more Indian Americans. We want Indian Americans who understand legislation, who understand budgeting processes, who understand how to work with communities, even the ones that don't look like us. That's the responsibility of public service. And I think that way too often we just focus so much on representation, but not about what true power and service really means.
Rohit, you have made very valid points here. Being in public service and being in politics are two different things.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
How do you think you can bridge the gap?
Yeah, I have a lifetime in public service. I'm going to be a public servant whether I'm in politics or not. I think politics is going to gain someone who understands public service by electing me. I understand these rules. I've worked in I worked in the Obama administration. I have a policy degree from Harvard. I am someone who has for the past 12 years run an organization that is focused on local public policy. So I'm not just saying this as something that I'm feeling or that I hope to do. I've been doing this, and so I think public service is not a career. It is a culture. It's a character. I think we need more people in public service, not because they're looking for how is this going to make my life better, but how am I going to be able to use this as an opportunity to make so many other people's lives better, who will get to say, life was tough. It's just a little less harder because the right people are in government. I think we deserve that.
Absolutely, Rohit. I totally get that.
Yeah.
And also touching people is very important.
Yeah.
It's not about making money, making politics or something, but touching lives is important.
Yes.
So now let's come to the geo, let's come to the numbers, and let's come to the support needed from Indo-Americans,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah.
So how big is the city of Atlanta? How many voters are there? And how big is the area? And how many votes you need to position yourself in a solid matter.
Yeah, sure. So the city of Atlanta, actually, it's a common misconception. The city of Atlanta it's a big major city, but there's only 503,000 people in the city of Atlanta. And out of those 503,000 people, then there's a smaller percentage of those people who are actual registered voters. Then of the registered voters, yes, people vote in presidential elections. People sometimes even vote in gubernatorial elections. But when it comes to city elections, you have less than 20% of people vote in city elections. 80% of people do not participate in city elections. So the margins of winning at in city government is actually very, very small. In fact, the last 2 mayors before this won on margins less than 1,000 votes. Wow. That's smaller than most Indian weddings, right? So there's we have such small margins of people make such big decisions for so many people. And so for me, the number of votes that you have to win is just going to be one more vote than the other person, right? And usually you see in municipal elections anywhere between 50 to 100,000 people will vote. But to me, I'm not thinking about the number of votes that I need to win. I'm thinking about the number of votes that I want to win. And for me, that is about activating the 80% of people who have given up on participating in government, because they know how to vote. They do vote. They just don't vote for this. And yet everything we talk about, the vast majority of it falls in decisions that cities make. Absolutely. If you care about education in your schools, did you vote in your school board election? If you care about your roads and your infrastructure, did you vote in your city election? If you actually care about people being able to get access to jobs, did you vote in your city election? Do you care whether a developer gets a multi-million-dollar benefit, but somebody who is renting is struggling to pay their bills? If you care about that, these are all city issues. It doesn't matter what someone in Washington, D.C. says or does. What matters is the people who are elected locally. So to me, I think that getting excited about local government is the best response when you feel like national government is falling apart.
Excellent. You have explained very well. So I understood that 50,000 to 100,000 votes for the city election.
That's right.
So help us understand the viewers, and also especially the Indo-Americans. I'm sure that none of them know about this.
Yes.
So how many city councils will be there? How many positions will be there in the city council?
Yeah.
And the votes, what is the jurisdiction of the voters?
Yeah.
Is it living in only Atlanta city or the neighboring city?
Yes, so it is only the city of Atlanta. Every city has its own elections. So if you live in Alpharetta or you live in Lawrenceville, you'll have your own set of elections. And most of these types of elections happen in off years, which is difficult, right? Because if everybody's coming to vote for president, but there's no mayor, city council on that, then you're asking them to come again to vote. But at the same time, it doesn't get distracted by the noise of that. What I love about city elections is it's not about voting for a Democrat or a Republican. And what I mean by that is these are non-partisan races, meaning the people who are running, they do not run as a Republican or they do not run as a Democrat or an independent. They just run as their name on the ballot. So they have to really prove to you that I, Rohit, am the best person for this position. So but this is the election that I'm running for is just the city of Atlanta, but anybody within the city of Atlanta can vote for this position for me. So I'm very excited about that. To explain the number of city council members, so just like any government, there's 3 branches of government. So whether you learned this in school or picked it up on YouTube, whatever, right? 3 branches of government. There's the judicial, those are our judges. Mm-hmm. There's the executive, and then there's the legislative. Mm-hmm. The judicial are the ones that determine what the law actually says, what it doesn't say. The executive, which is the mayor in the city of Atlanta, they're the ones who execute the law. They execute what it is that it's supposed to happen. But the people who create the law, the people who create policy, is the legislative branch. And in Atlanta, the legislative branch is the city council. So the city council, to me, is one of the most exciting places to be in government, because it's not about showing up at a concert or just, speaking on a microphone. It's about getting into the details of the rules. Sometimes a law might be titled one thing, but it really means something different. Absolutely. The people who are willing to understand, what does it really mean when we say that? The people who are willing to say, get into the details, those are the best legislators. And I think that if you do not have a good understanding of the legislative process, then it's very hard for you to do public service. And I think people think public service is all about your heart. Oh, I care about the community, and my mother loves me, so I should be in public service. That is necessary, but not sufficient. To be a good person is necessary, but not sufficient. You actually have to understand how the rules are played. Because I bet if you go to a soccer match and I tell you that the person who's starting on our soccer team has a really good heart, but doesn't know how to play soccer, I think you would be really upset about that. You'd be like, why did you make me pay tickets for this game? This is a very foolish game that we are playing. And I think that's where we are in politics. We are electing people to play a game that they do not understand how to play. And the people who suffer for that are us, the people who are watching that game get played at our expense.
Very well said, Rohit. Definitely the legislators are the important factor of any of the governing body.
Yes.
And I know that you are going to fall in that. So now let's talk politics, right?
I love politics.
So coming to the politics, I know that as a public service member, you have seen a lot of issues, right? So what is your agenda for this today politics, and you as a Rohit, What are you going to do? What is the agenda for the people to vote you?
Yeah. The number one thing I care about is economic mobility, which is the likelihood that you can move out of the economic circumstances that you are in today to one that is better for your children tomorrow. That is the American dream. Okay. That is why so many of our parents came to this country, because they believe that.
Absolutely.
And think of how many people my parents' age who have given up their well-being, given up their health, given up who they are, just so they can actually accomplish this goal.
Absolutely.
That is, everyone believes that that is possible. But today, that is not a true thing. No matter how hard some people work, no matter what happens, who they are, where they are born, what they look like, who they love, is a greater determinant of what their economic success is going to be. That is criminal. I believe that when we talk about economy, it can't just be about stocks and bonds and how well is the market doing. There are some people who that is the show of their strength of their economic well-being. But for most people, they open up a Bank of America app or Chase or whatever it is, and they see, do I have more money than zero or less? And for a lot of people, for 65% of this country, they are one paycheck away from not having enough in their bank account to survive. 60% of this country.
Absolutely.
So if we don't care about that, then government is actually working for the wrong people. I believe that government should work for the people who depend on it to work, who need it to work, not the people who want to use it for their own well-being. That to me is the difference. So that's my number one issue. Number two, I want to protect small businesses. I come from small business. And when I say protect small businesses, I want to make sure that small businesses can compete. So many small businesses they're not profitable. We might as well just call them all nonprofits, because 96% of businesses do not actually earn a profit, meaning they do not earn more money than they spend. For a lot of small businesses, they are in mass amounts of debt. They are struggling. They do not have the ability to hire staff, or they are doing they have their own personal well-being is being expended in order for their business to survive. We have to protect small businesses, because when people go to cities, when you go to New York City, what do you love? You get off there, you smell the air, you see the taxi cabs, all of that, and then you see all these small businesses. You see a bodega, then after that you see somebody who's selling hats, then you see somebody on the street who's trying to sell watches, then you see somebody who's selling you some pizza. That's the best part of this, because for each one of those people, they're not just a pizza shop. That's a family business that is trying to make sure that their family can survive. And I think way too often we have put those people, their livelihood at expense, in order to give benefit to corporations who can come in and take a loss. And I think we just need to have a more honest conversation about our economy, about our small businesses. And the very last thing I think is transportation. If people can't get from point A to point B, that is a civil rights issue. In most other cities, the ability for someone to get from point A to point B determines whether you can get a job, whether you can go see your kids, whether you can participate in other things. People here are stuck because we're a car-dependent city. I do not think that is healthy for the city. And also, there are no more lanes left. We have 7 lanes on each side of the highway. What, you want 9, 10, 15? There will never be enough. We can keep putting more cars on the road, or we can change our infrastructure to match more of how people get from point A to point B.
Okay. So, are you just wanted to more elaborate on a couple of things what you spoke?
Please, go ahead.
One is on the traffic, right?
Yeah.
You already addressed that point A to point B should be moved very easily.
Yeah.
And Atlanta, even though the roads are expanded, the city is also expanding.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But the major highway is only the one.
That's
right?
all you got, 85.
So today we have Martha. So what's the plan for you to extend Martha?
Yeah, so the city of Atlanta actually it's one of many organizations that has a say on what happens in MARTA. MARTA has to be better. Now the actual people who make decisions on behalf of MARTA have repeatedly made decisions that have not kept their word. We have said that we were going to be able to build, for example, a streetcar on the Beltline. Hasn't happened, right? We said that we're going to build more transportation options for people. Hasn't happened. We said it's going to be faster, more affordable. It has not been, right? I think that there are two ways to make your transportation system better. Either you increase public subsidy, which you're not going to get. The state does not invest in public transportation because it doesn't believe in it. So that is a problem. Until the state decides to put more money in it, then cities and municipalities have to go beg for money in other places. So either you pass the expense on to the rider, and I say, okay, now it's $15 to ride the train. Then you're gonna be like, I'm not riding the train for $15. Or I have to go find that money elsewhere, which is by, for example, raising taxes to do that. Now, the city of Atlanta has raised taxes repeatedly to be able to get people the promise of public transportation. And people said, okay, fine, tax me. Just give me transportation. And they haven't done it. One of the biggest problems in government is not ideas, it's keeping your promise. Absolutely. And I think that way too often, the reason why people don't even want to hear your big ideas is they're like, you lied to me about the last two. Why should I trust you about this one? So I think MARTA is a part of that, where people have lost public trust in MARTA. So even if MARTA is doing the right thing, people don't believe it. So I think we have to rebuild the public trust. I think we actually have to follow through on our plans, and we have to build transportation that is actually accessible and available for people to get to work, get to play, get to just go from point A to point B.
Absolutely, Rohit. I think it looks like you have a very solid plan to go over. The last point I wanted to touch on, are you ready for financially to run this election?
Look, I think that the type of campaign you run is determined by how much money you raise to run it. And this is why a lot of people sell out in politics, because they don't raise enough money. And then they say, well, I got to raise more money, so maybe I'm going to make an exchange with the devil. Maybe it's a little exchange, maybe it's a big exchange, but I'm going to make an exchange nonetheless. But what you're compromising there is not just politics, you're compromising your morality. I have said from day one, I would rather raise less money and keep my morality and lose than raise so much money and compromise why I'm running in the first place. Absolutely. So with that said, the only way that these types of campaigns run is if people are willing to invest in it. Now, when people hear the types of things that I say, they say, well, you sound like anti-establishment. You sound like you are against the machine. And in some ways I am. And that's unpopular. Democrats and Republicans don't like that because everyone says they want change without them being the ones who have to change. So when you are calling out that we need to do something different, that we need to change something, it's harder to get people to invest in that. So I'm running a historic race, but I need our Indo-American community to get behind me. I need them to realize that this isn't just about putting an Indian American in City Hall. This is about representing working class people. This is about representing small businesses. This is about representing community. And what values are closer aligned to Indian people than that? To talk about working people, hardworking families, talk about neighborhoods and community, to talk about small businesses. That feels like a conversation I've been having my whole life. So it's very natural for me to have that conversation. Absolutely. And it's what makes me very, very excited to be running.
Absolutely, Rohit. So how much fund you need to run this race and how Indo-Americans can help you?
Yeah, so this is going to be up to $1 million race. And it is because they are coming, the establishment does not want me to win. They do not want me to win because they do not believe the same things that I do. And I am running a race based on integrity and authenticity, but it is $1 million race. The maximum donation for a city race is $3,300. And you can make a donation at rohitforatlanta.com/donate. But I don't even view this as a donation because our campaign is not for sale. I view this as an investment. I think you are investing not just in me. Frankly, this campaign has very little to do with me. You're investing in our community. You are showing people, somebody who is in elementary school right now, or in middle school right now, or is in college right now, and feels lost or confused, but feels a sense of service because of what they've seen their families go through or what they believe, but doesn't know how to get there. I hope to be an example for them. And not just an example, I hope to be the person who pushes open the door and cracks open the ceiling to make sure that we are represented in government, that our voices are represented in government, and that we are a part of the larger conversation that is happening about us in our community.
Absolutely, Rohit. Now let's go quickly, rapid fire, and
Yeah,
then
let's do
first thing, who are your supporters today in the legislation?
In the legislation, I'm not chasing political supporters. I'm chasing community support for me. I am not going, and I think a lot of people go and try to find elected officials to support them. I'll let them make their decision later. For me, this is about the voters. Since 8 o'clock this morning and up until 11 o'clock tonight, I will be in community meetings. I will be at places. I will be in homes. I will be talking to people. I'm not going to go behind closed doors and try to find political support, which is what that sometimes requires. But I think there are a lot of people who support me, whether they'll say it publicly or not. We'll see.
Absolutely, Rohit. So, how many people are competition to you right now? How many people are in the race?
Yeah, just one other person. So this is a 50-50 race.
So, who is he from?
She. Yeah. She's from Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yep.
Excellent. So, for this, you live in Atlanta?
I do. I've lived in Atlanta for most of my life. When I was even in high school, I did get a job. I know my dad told a story earlier about how I refused to get a job in high school, but he may have forgotten that I used to work at a law firm. I was a runner at a law firm when I was in 10th grade. And that law firm was on Broad Street, and that's how I met so many small businesses and all of that. So I've been going back and forth, working in Atlanta, being in Atlanta since I was, 15, 16 years old. I currently live in the Grant Park, Summerhill area. And so I'm just very, very excited to be there. I live there with my dog and my partner, and we're just so happy to be there.
Excellent, Rohit. To run this race, do you need to resign from your work or not required?
I intentionally took a leave of absence. You are not required to do it, but I am so committed to the ethical side of this that I wanted to make sure that there was no view on any sort of impropriety. I do not want the organization that I run, which is a policy organization, to take any hits because I'm running for office. So,
and having these funds, is there any limitation that people should be in Atlanta to support you, or anyone anywhere can?
No. Anywhere in the country. If you are Indian American in this country, or if you're not Indian American and you love Indian Americans, if you love Matar Paneer and you love Chole Bhature, whatever it is, if you love Idli Sambar, whatever you want, if Indian people have been good to you, trust me, you can vote for me. And so anywhere you are in the country, you can contribute. You cannot vote for me. You can contribute, and there's a $3,300 maximum donation that people can make. But if you can do $5, if you can do $10, $15, whatever it is, whatever you're able to do, again, it's an investment in the campaign. So this campaign is for everybody, but only people in the city of Atlanta can vote.
Rohit, last closing comments.
Yes.
What is the message to the Indo-American community? Because you are running the race, if you win, what is the message to the community and what is the benefit to the community? I wanted the viewers to understand, to support you more.
Who I am, what I believe, how I was raised, is why I'm in public service. It's taught to us. We don't even call it public service. You go to Mandir and when you're a kid, you know that you are supposed to be the one when the elders are sitting. You're the one who's going to have to go and touch their feet. You're going to have to go and make sure that they eat rajma first. Then you can have rajma chawal. You know that. Now you don't call that public service, but it is. We have public service embedded into our character, embedded into our culture. I feel so lucky to be Indian American because of how I was raised. I also think that we shouldn't abandon that. I am seeing that Indian Americans are abandoning the thing that is us. It is, community is us. The things that to take care of the person next to you where they may not be having the ability to survive this month, that is so normal. That is how I grew up. If there is not, you don't have enough tea, you don't have, sugar for your chai, auntie will come down the street to make sure that you have, chini for your chai, right? You have to have that. That is always how I've known us to be. Why do we abandon that? Why do we try to act like other people? when the very thing that people are trying to emulate and people are asking for and begging for in public service is something we already naturally have, something we already naturally believe, which is that our job on this earth is to be in service, that there is something bigger we are serving, that our community is more important than ourselves. These are principles embedded in our culture. I'm just trying to make sure it gets embedded in our politics.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rohit. Yes. And it is very honored to speak to you. And I'm very glad that you're running for this race. And it is very much needed from the community that someone need to represent, someone need to take the ownership, and someone need to serve not only the community, Indo-American community, everyone who lives in the city is all our people, right? With that said, I congratulate you and also best of luck for your race, and we wish that you win.
Thank you.
This is all about Rohit, and I wish everyone who are in Atlanta City, please do talk to Rohit and vote for him, raise funds for him to support his race, and definitely we wish that he will be in the office soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you're doing to bring attention to the community, to fight for the community. I know you traveled just to tell this story. We need people like you. You are a microphone and a megaphone for our community. So thank you.
Rohit. Thank you so much.
Yes, yeah.